What is up, y'all? My name is Brandon. Let's talk about some books. The first one actually is one I just got out of the mail. It was sent to me by Sandorf Passage, the publisher out of Maine, and I figured I would open it on here. I do not remember which one they sent me that I had asked for. They sent me a couple others, but yeah, I don't remember what this one is. Oh, it's actually two. So first one we've got She Who Remains, which is by Renee Carabash, translated by Isadora Angel. It says Carabash's poetic stream of consciousness traces gender evolution with an innovative grace. To me, this seems just right up my alley. Looks experimental from looking at it. Just the lack of capitalization, if you can see. And consciousness is perfect. You know, that to me is very appealing. And thank you to them for sending this one. The second one they sent, which I actually did not ask for, but this is going to be out September of this year. This is called Bedbugs by Martina Vidayich, translated by Ellen Elias Bursach. I'm discovering bedbug bites on her hand to workplace romance and familial fallouts. This is incredible. It seems like, again, it's right up my alley. That little red dot is actually supposed to be there. That's like part of the cover, so I'm not really sure. Yeah, and similar to the last one, it kind of, you know, I flipped through. This is like 98 pages in, and there was not a single paragraph break before this point, which again is perfect. Like, I love that kind of thing. And I think it's super interesting to see authors experiment with that and see what they can do within that experimentation. It's published out of Croatia in 2023, but this English translation, again, is coming out in September of this year. And a huge thank you to Sandorf Passage for sending those, and I will definitely be sure to get to something by them very soon because I've heard really good things. The next book I actually bought last weekend while I was at home visiting my parents. It is I Gave You Eyes and You Looked Toward Darkness by Irene Sola, translated by Mara Faye Lethem. And to me this seems super interesting because of the cover, firstly, the title, and then the premise just sounds interesting. Basically, you have a woman on her deathbed, and there are a bunch of people who had died in the house that she's in, pretty much waiting for her to die. It gives you a sense of mortality. It gives you a sense of the unknown and kind of speculating on whatever afterlife there might be and what this woman is going to go through leading up to that point. This is from Grey Wolf Press, which is one that I always look for when I go to bookstores. Like, keep an eye out for anything from them, especially this title. I think it's gonna be amazing. Next one I bought was from Barnes & Noble. Actually, I have almost all of the novels that this author has published, and I'm actually reading one now, The Recognitions, and I'm about 330 pages into it, and it's fantastic so far. It's confusing, but in a good way, and one that will definitely be up there with one of the best books that I've read. Agape by William Gaddis. This was his final novel that he published, and over many, many years he was taking notes for a book about the mechanization of the arts and distilled it all pretty much into this one novel about a piano player, and he's delivering a monologue, and he's got a terminal illness. Just like with the structure and the prose of Bedbugs being kind of no paragraph breaks, just straight through, this is the same way. And let me show. So you can kind of see that's 40 pages in, and there wasn't a single paragraph break. And it's only 100, it's less than 100 pages. It's 96 pages and not a single paragraph break. And I know that William Gaddis is an incredible author, and I think I'm going to go in chronological order with what he published, so I will not be reading this right away, but it's definitely one that I'm going to get to. at some point. His postmodern style that he uses is entrancing, and especially with the recommendations that I'm reading right now, it really draws you in and brings you to be a part of what he's doing. Even though it's confusing, it's used as a tool to get you to distinguish the things that are important versus the things that are meant to be of distraction, which is difficult, yes, but again, like I said in the last video, difficulty is fun. I think that that's one of the reasons that we should read. I'm in a group on Instagram, and we talk about book recommendations and things that we're reading and things that we've seen, and honestly just kind of messing around for the most part. But this is a recommendation that one of the members of the group read and loved. Another person bought it, started it, and said it was incredible, so of course I'm gonna buy it. The Stain by Ricky Ducournay, originally published in 1995. This is put out again, re-released by Dalkey Archive. This is a debut novel where a little girl has a birthmark that is the shape of a rabbit that is said to be the mark of Satan. That alone makes me want to read it. The cover is incredible too, and I think it's going to be worth a read for sure. That last one was also from Barnes & Noble. All the rest of these are from a smaller bookstore, used and new, in Richmond. If you're ever in town, I would highly suggest you go check them out. It's Shelf Life Books on Cary Street. This is The Body of the Soul by Ludmila Ulitskaya. This is translated from Russian by Pavier and Volokonsky, which is, I know that is a pretty reputable translation. They are translators of War and Peace. When I was looking for a translation to read of War and Peace, I know that they were in the conversation. I'll read a brief little blurb on the back of this. While we can feel, know, and study the body, the soul refuses definition. Where does it begin and end? Does it exist at all? And if so, does it outlast the body, or are the soul and body really one and the same? That really makes me think of Descartes, obviously, because of the I think, therefore I am, and his idea that the body and the soul are two separate things, that our soul gives us the ability to think and exist, and our body is kind of a machine being used by the soul to achieve certain ends. But these are short stories. The cover is fantastic too. The butterfly and the apple. But yeah, I'm super excited to get to this at some point. Probably not a priority, but definitely one that piques my interest. Right, next up we got the selected works of T.S. Spivet, or Spivet, I don't know how you're supposed to say that. But this is by Reif Larson. This is probably one of the ones I'm most excited for. There's a blurb on the back from Stephen King that compares it to Mark Twain and Thomas Pynchon kind of combined. I don't even have words to describe the fact that Stephen King calls this a mix of Mark Twain and Thomas Pynchon. Story of a 12-year-old genius map maker named T.S. Spivet who gets a phone call from the Smithsonian and goes on a trip from his hometown in Montana to DC. And the really interesting part is actually the formatting of some of the pages. So I'll show a couple of these. It really reminds me of House of Leaves with the way that the structure is played with. So there are, so you can see there's like arrows that branch off into little sections. There's sideways text there. That's just one page, but that's pretty much on every page. There's something like that. And then you have maps weaved in, you have pictures, you have like cursive, and you also have different printed parts on the page, kind of like how parts of the tunnel do. For example, you have, that one's got like birds on it there. Literally the page before the one I just showed, but it's got those birds and there's one at the top there. This is also a debut novel, which I think is pretty ambitious for somebody starting out to write something like this. It's published by Penguin. All right, next up we got Distant Relations by Carlos Fuentes, who, again, in the group that I'm in on Instagram, we're talking about a different novel by Fuentes with a similar cover. It was a similar design cover. It was called Aura, but the bookstore I was in actually had this one, and it just popped out to me on the shelf, so I picked it up. The main character telling a story of a friend who is not named until the end, of the novel and his experience going through life, pretty much. You know, I don't know anything about it other than what it's telling me here. It's translated from Spanish by Margaret Sayers Peden. So Carlos Fuentes, I have one of his works on the shelf behind me, and don't know if I'll read this or that first. We'll see. Our next one was on the free shelf, which is always a good thing. Zap by Svetlana Lavochkina, which appears to be some Russian story. There is literally 3 lines on the back that tell what it's kind of about, and that's pretty much it. There's nothing else that describes it. It says, a night and a day away from Moscow by express train, or a day and a night away from the Black Sea by a slow passenger train. Zap inextricably seesaws between the south and the north. That's it. So I don't know anything about it. I think the cover looks interesting, and the publisher is a publisher called Whiskey Tit, and I have one of their works already, and I've heard very good things about it. So I saw their little logo on the back, and I figured I'd just grab it since it was free. Next up, I got 2 biographies. I don't read enough nonfiction to begin with, so I'm definitely excited for both of them. The first one is a biography, Life of a Poet, by Ralph Friedman. It's a biography of Rainer Maria Rilke. Rilke was a poet who wrote about nature, transcending the gifts of nature into something that is so elusive that only somebody like him could have accessed it. And there is a blurb on the back from William H. Gass, who, if you watched the last video, you know is my favorite writer of all time. And I do want to read that. Because it pleads no special clause, because it neither shrinks nor tut-tuts nor poo-poos nor exults, because it never looks at Rilke's traits as if there were knots to be cleverly untied, but allows the poet's genius and his personal weaknesses to fall like a pair of gloves on the same table. And because it tells its tale in full awareness of the tale's importance, not of the teller's or the teller's thesis, Ralph Friedman's exemplary biography turns out to be a book that in the deepest sense supports Rilke's poetry and is a book of praise. Anything that William H. Gass says is good, I'm going to go with, and I'm going to try and hopefully enjoy. But I don't read enough nonfiction, like I said, so definitely excited. I think if I'm going to read a biography, it needs to be something like this. The other biography I got is Melville, His World and Work by Andrew Delbanco. And I read Moby Dick earlier this year, and it was so amazing. Transcendent, referential to no end. It was incredible the way that he weaves in biblical references and allusions, and his poetry, really, because it's not a work of pure fiction. It is poetry to some degree, and Herman Melville is an interesting character from what I know about him. This will just help me dive deeper into his life. Pretty much all I know now is that he was on a whaling ship at some point in his life, and it's really how he got a lot of information for Moby Dick was his own experiences, which is very interesting, but I do want to learn more about him. Probably be the next biography or the next nonfiction that I read. The last book is actually going to be a giveaway that I'm going to do on my Instagram, so if you do not follow me there, please make sure you go follow me there and follow the terms that are there. Stay tuned for the information. I have not posted it yet, but I will be very soon. And I'm going to give away a copy of my favorite book of all time, Watership Down by Richard Adams. I talked enough about this book on my last video, and I don't really think I need to go into it anymore, but this is a clean copy. There's nothing written in here. There's nothing like that. Cover's a little bit scratched up, but you know, it was $6. I've gotten some questions about this cover saying where I got it from, and so I just figured, I saw it on the shelf, I was like, let me get it and I'll give it to somebody, and so hopefully somebody can enjoy this and get something out of it just like I did. Alright y'all, that is it for the books that I bought recently. I do have a few coming in the mail soon. I may wait to open them, I may not, we'll see. Yeah, if you like the video, please make sure to like, comment down below what is the most recent book that you bought and why did you buy it. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll see you on the next one.